Tonight, we begin with the benchmark value discounts and the impact it is having on local industry as Wilmar Africa has shut down one of its oil production plants, blaming it on that policy and the harsh economic conditions. In a letter to the Food and Allied Workers Union, Wilmar Africa said its oil production division faces imminent closure as it is unable to compete with cheaper imports. I have that letter. I want to go through it with you. It is captioned Operational Challenges, Wilmar Africa Limited, Imminent Closure of Business. Now, we wish to communicate, it says, to your good office some operational challenges that Wilmar Africa Limited, the oil side of the business, is facing that is affecting the business negatively. Firstly, since the introduction of government's duty discount on benchmark value policy, there's been a huge increase in cheap imported products into the country. This has made it very difficult for us to sell in the local market because imported oils from Asia are selling far cheaper than our product. The unit cost of our oil is high as compared to the imported ones, as we have to contend with all the overheads in our cost build-up. The government's announcement of the reversal of the duty discount on benchmark policy was a welcoming news. However, government has suspended the action on this announcement. Secondly, Ivory Coast has decided to regulate the price of oil in their market, and they have set the price far lower than the prevailing price of local producers like us. Ghana, being a close neighbor to Ivory Coast, has encouraged smuggling into the country through our porous borders. All these factors are not making us competitive in the market. Therefore, we cannot sell, and our oil stock has piled up in the warehouses. Sales have subsequently slumped significantly. To make matters worse, our export market, which has been complementing our local sales, has also been hit by non-availability of vessels to transport the product to our main export market, Senegal, due to the COVID situation. These compounded problems resulted in our worst sales in December 2021 and the low sales continuing into January 2022. With no space for storage due to low sales, we are compelled to take a temporary shutdown of the plant and monitor the situation. If this situation persists, we shall be faced with an imminent closure of the business. In view of this, we are asking for suspension of the CBA negotiations as we do not have the environment to negotiate in good faith. As an important stakeholder in our business activities, we deemed it appropriate to bring this to your notice, and that letter to the Food and Allied Workers Union, signed by Kwame Wiafe, who is the General Manager. We are joined by the General Secretary of the Food and Allied Workers Union, Ken Kumsin. The group the letter from Wilmar was addressed to. Great to have you tonight on Business Live. So how are you taking this letter from Wilmar? How are your members reacting?
Well, thank you very much. The communication that was sent by Wilmar to us on the 13th came to us as rather a very unfortunate, and as we all know, poses a very huge challenge to jobs. Now, if you may recall, the reason that has been cited in that letter clearly has nothing to do with performance of labor, has nothing to do with workplace discipline, has nothing to do with employee attitude to work. Basically, it is an externally related factor that appears to undermine our collective effort, and if care is not taken, we may have to face this unfortunate incident, which is the layoff of over 1,500 workers.
Go on.
We as a trade union, considering the fact that we have negotiated terms that covers conditions of service from appointment till retirement, provident fund, medical insurance, overtime allowance, and all the other conditions of service that ensure that decent working conditions are administered, faces a challenge of having to see this suspended and consequently have workers sent home. Now, our concern is that what is the impact or what is the benchmark value policy? And for what reason would government suspend the benchmark value policy, which is the main reason for shutdown? That for us is the question for all of us to interrogate and to find out whether or not the policy is actually in the interest of the state or is not in the interest of the state. Does the policy benefit workers? And if it doesn't, what are the measures to be taken? So yes, as a trade union, we find this quite unfortunate. And we think that the government ought to take a critical look at this benchmark policy, which is becoming a problem for jobs.
All right. So government is promising wider consultation. So hopefully in the next days coming, we are going to see some sort of consensus reached. But just to the point of the oil plant shutdown, what does it mean for those workers there? Have they been laid off already? What are you hearing?
No, the letter that we received indicated an intention to shut down if government does not take steps to reverse the benchmark policy.
But Wilmar said it had already shut down one of its oil production plants in the letter.
Yes, because this benchmark policy, as you know, came into effect.
We get it. I was just asking that what happens now that it has shut one of its oil production plant? What happens to the workers there? Were you told?
As soon as there's a shutdown, what is going to happen is that every worker in the plant would have to be laid off. Because what are you going to do when the plant is shut down? You only go to work when there's operation, the business is in operation, the machines are working. But when there is a shutdown, what it simply means is that stay home. And what we are saying is that the impact to the ordinary worker is that a worker with about a family of 5 is going to have a difficulty to provide.
Right.
So there is a direct correlation with this shutdown to income and again to national security.
Okay. So is it just, sorry to catch you, is it just Wilmar that is communicating their challenges to you? Are you hearing from other companies that you work for?
Yes. I mean, if you look at the palm oil plantation, for instance, you have other companies who, for some reasons, are not comfortable to have their names mentioned in the public domain. We all understand what some of these things can actually elicit. So if you look at the policy, the question for us and for you and I to interrogate is the benchmark policy and its impact on the cost of production. That is the key. So if companies and industries and sectors whose product, because see, a product that is currently being produced locally, and then you give an incentive to an importer to import the same product without a corresponding subsidy or tax relief measure, so that the local manufacturer can compete with such an importer. What you are telling everybody is that this country should run an import or even convert this country into a big supermarket, where all of us will shut down the company, go home, and then import and sell.
Okay. So my final question to you, Mr. Kumsing, we understand that you together with GAU, you have released a statement, and I'm sure that you're making an appeal to government. What are you asking government to do? What
happened in the press conference, and it was just a simple appeal to government, that the benchmark value policy, prior to its introduction, the local industries were competing with this import product without any problem. After the introduction of the benchmark policy, the difference, after you have put in all the costs, the ship costs, the duties, and so on and so forth, you have the import selling less 20 to 40 Ghana cedis than the local manufacturers. What we are asking government to do is that this policy is a disincentive to local production, It defeats its own policy to encourage local industry. For that matter, government should take immediate steps to reverse the benchmark policy to ensure, one, that jobs are protected, two, revenue that government itself collects from these companies are also guaranteed. This is the call, and this is what we appeal, and this is what we are saying government should do. Excellent statement. Ken
Kumsin, General Secretary of FAO, thanks very much for your time tonight. We appreciate it. And this is a big story in so many ways. Imagine not having to see Phytol on your shelves anymore. That's what is happening amid the benchmark discounts controversy.